And I think Alicia as this living corpse that has to deal with pain knowing that she's not going to die from whatever's causing her pain is a really interesting, really dark, messed up concept. If she's drowning or if she falls off a cliff and breaks a bunch of bones, she has to feel every single second of that pain while she recovers. That is just a level of torture that I don't think should be ever experienced ever by anybody. It really just made me rethink like parts of like the relationship with Clevatess and Alicia, because Alicia is still technically a slave. Like she's kind of doing this, she wants to do this, but at the same time she's forced to do this, which I think makes a weird dynamic. I never really am a fan of characters being slaves, but like the slave owner or slave master is doing them a kindness. Like, what is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Most Potato Podcast. My name is Alvin, and as you can see here, Jess is missing. Jess couldn't be here because she is on a top secret mission to overthrow America's evil plans all across the globe. So in the meantime, you are stuck with me. And since you're stuck with me, I'm just going to go ahead and just yap about something that I've been watching independently that Jess hasn't been watching. And that is going to be Clevatess, the latest dark fantasy anime shonen series that hit this past summer. Shout out to Mother's Basement. I love that channel. I love that dude for curating all the best and also the worst animes that he's been watching. That's how I came across this show. I cannot tell you how long I've been craving an anime series that has that same sort of animation style and art direction that we used to get back in like the 90s and early 2000s. You know, that texture that has a bit of grime and grit and some saturation to the color. That was like the main thing that stood out to me when I came across trailers and footage of Clevatess. And immediately I knew I was going to be hooked, and hopefully the story was going to be good. And sure enough, the story is actually pretty awesome. I had a really fun time watching Clevatess. This is probably my favorite weekly watch that I've had this past season, just with Gachiakuta right behind it. And I want to talk about that too, but apparently that's getting 24 episodes, so I don't really want to go into Gachiakuta until I actually finish the season. But that show's been really cool too, and it's also got a beautiful art direction and animation style that I've been craving for a while. There's moments where the animation is a little bit choppy, but for the most part, the animation's consistent, and the art style just looks so freaking cool, man. I love that there's like this retroness to it, while you can tell there's modern sensibilities to it. I love that like in the flashback scenes, you get even more sort of intentionally degraded quality, that it looks like a second-hand or third-hand version of the original footage of an anime from like the 90s. Like you see like unfinished lines on the outlines of characters that really gives it that rough quality that makes it feel like someone's memory when they're retelling something from their past. The characters are also wonderful. Clevatess, Alicia, and Nell, the main three characters, they all have distinct personalities from each other, and they bounce off each other really well. I loved their dynamic, especially the dynamic between Clevatess and Alicia. They could not be further like apart in terms of like how different they are in personalities, but seeing them work together when they start off as like opponents and enemies, I thought was really cool. Also, the opening and ending songs are some of the best bangers that I've heard in anime this past season. There's been a lot of good ones in the past year, but the opening and ending might be my favorite ones for this year, especially the Ellie Goulding ending that I'm still waiting for it to be available, and I need that song in my bloodstream right now. I think this might be my favorite shonen series of the season. Again, Gachiakuta has the potential to surpass that. It's still ongoing. In terms of action shonen series, I really think Clevatess has been my favorite one. I haven't been watching that many anime that comes out. I just don't have the time and energy to sift through all the anime that comes out each season, but this was a standout for me for sure. The world building in this is really awesome. I love that you're slowly pulling away the curtain with each episode. The series doesn't give you too much, and it takes itself seriously in terms of letting you get invested in the world that it's setting up. It's not giving up and being like, here, just let me show you all the tropes. You already know what fantasy is all about in anime, so we're just gonna give you the quick rundown in 5 minutes, and then you can just go off and enjoy the characters being cool. Like, it doesn't do that. It actually lets you into the world slowly and gradually. It feels like I'm playing Zelda Breath of the Wild for the first time ever. It feels like I'm going through like this map and starting right at the start point, where along with these characters that don't know that much about the world, and the goal is for them to explore the rest of the world. And I love that I'm just going along with the characters, discovering things as they're discovering things. That always makes a show for me very interesting and very intriguing. Again, I'm going through like an RPG game where you've got like people in this part of the country with their own culture and their own subset of rules, and then you just have different ones on different parts of the map, and they're kind of disconnected from each other because they're separated by territories being dominated by these creatures called Lords of Dark Beasts, which I think is really cool. I love that there's like something in the way, and we're not fully getting a full picture of why these creatures are here, why they get in the way of humans being able to traverse the land easily. I love that that's like the main sort of question and the main problem of the story. I love that magic is like just like a vague concept to people in this world. Like this fantasy world could easily just set up like, yeah, there's magicians here, you've got your soldiers there, alchemists over there, but instead they make magic sort of like a mystery to people. They allude to it being like a lost form of knowledge and a lost history where magic used to actually have impact in society, and now it's just really no different than like, I don't know, making herbs or something. Like it just doesn't have any sort of social societal impact, especially when it comes to combat with dark creatures. I'm really curious to know more in future seasons how magic plays a bigger role in the story here. And I love that whenever we do witness a character using magic, there are characters that witness it and they are in awe. Like they're in shock. They don't know what they're witnessing and they have questions just like we do. That keeps everything really interesting and fresh. I think the power systems of the regalia is really cool. I love that there's just this concept of, you know, you earn this sword when you're a soldier for the King of Haiden. It's forged from like this really like rare mineral that's really difficult to get because it's around territories that are really dangerous. The concept of your blade like only being able to absorb the energy of the first enemy that you defeat, I think is really cool as well. Like you have to really be choosy about your first opponent. You don't want your sword to be like this weak thing when you're gonna go up against things like dragons and other legendary type creatures. And I love the politics that they're setting up between the human world and the dark beast world, where humans are not able to fully coexist with each other and traverse around the world without coming across territory being dominated by these large mysterious like entities and creatures. And it seems like the humans are the ones that start the problems. It seems like these creatures might be just minding their business and they only come after humans once humans start encroaching on their territory. The only time we ever see a dark beast sort of go out of their way to attack humans is when we see Clevatess destroying the kingdom and killing the king, because he was attacked first. His territory was attacked first when they send the 13 heroes off after him, which then creates the inciting incident of Clevatess basically becoming a surrogate father to this baby boy because he's so curious about if this human can actually grow up to be a decent person and not this person that seeks conquest. First of all, when I got into this series, I had no idea who Clevatess was. I didn't know what the name was referring to, so I had no idea that Clevatess was going to be the main big bad that we see in episode 1. And for Clevatess to be the protagonist instead of the typical, you know, main character with the sword and the pretty face, that was really cool. I like how they twisted it a bit with the trope of what the protagonist is. I mean, Alicia is like a co-protagonist. We follow her on her journey just as much as we follow Clevatess. But I'd argue that Clevatess is probably like the main protagonist, because I feel like we're mostly focused on his perspective because he's the one that's got a lot to gain in terms of learning about humanity and deciding what he's going to do about it, if he wants to coexist with humanity, destroy it entirely, or completely just mind his own business and just isolate himself again. I think having this dynamic between Clevatess and Alicia, who's this young person that really doesn't know much about her history, because as we see later in the season, the history of the heroes and the whole purpose of the heroes existing is pretty much erased from history. Nobody really knows the true nature of why we have heroes that go after these dark beasts, why they try to claim more territory. It's just this tradition that Alicia has that she's just indoctrinated in, and during the journey together, she's gradually learning how what she thought a hero meant is not exactly what it seems, and she has to redefine for herself what it means to be a hero in this world. I love that Clevatess's curiosity about humanity and its capacity to be good is projected into taking care of this baby that he accidentally orphaned, kind of, during the attack on the Haiden kingdom. I just think it's so hilarious that this big, evil-looking Pokemon that can turn into a human just decides, I'm just gonna basically parent this child and see how this person grows up to be, and if it's worth me sticking around and coexisting with humans, or if I should just wipe them out. And I think Alicia, as this living corpse that has to deal with pain, knowing that she's not going to die from whatever's causing her pain, is a really interesting, really dark, messed up concept that I can't recall if I've seen before. If she's drowning or if she falls off a cliff and breaks a bunch of bones, she has to feel every single second of that pain while she recovers. That is just a level of torture that I don't think should be ever experienced ever by anybody. But it really just made me rethink like parts of like the relationship with Clevatess and Alicia, because I remember that Alicia is still technically a slave. Like, she's kind of doing this. She wants to do this, but at the same time, she's forced to do this, which I think makes a weird dynamic. I never really am a fan of characters being slaves, but like the slave owner or slave master is doing them a kindness. Like with Rise of the Shield Hero, how the main character buys a girl as a slave, and there's like a kind of like a romance going on, kind of, that's being hinted, and you know, he's doing kind things for her, but it's like she's still a slave. It's giving very Django Unchained vibes. It's still kind of weird to me, so I'm still kind of iffy and mixed on like the concept of Alicia being a slave to Clevatess, but I guess she's never fully treated as a slave. Alicia seems to want to do what she's doing. She wants a second chance at proving herself, at being a hero, even if it means working alongside someone that she considered an enemy. I like that Alicia's character gradually starts becoming disillusioned about the Legend of Heroes as well. I love that they haven't kept her the same in these 12 episodes. It would have been very stagnant and really pointless if she was still hell-bent on being stuck to the ideals that she had, despite knowing the truth that nobody knows why we have heroes. Nobody knows the purpose of why the king does what he does until they get to the forge, and then they find the truth about that. And I love that Alicia is now sort of more in questioning mode and basically open to new information on what was the true nature of the heroes. What is the true nature of humans 1,000 years ago? Because apparently humans were very different 1,000 years ago compared to now, and heroes were very different 1,000 years ago compared to now. I'm curious to know more about that too. I also love that she is like such a capable, badass character. Like, yes, she has like the dark ichor running through her, and Clevatess does show up to help every once in a while. But when it comes to her combat stuff, that's all her. Like, whenever she takes down an enemy, and she takes down 2 like main villains in this season. I didn't think she was going to take down Drell and actually kill this guy by the end of season 1. He felt like a main bad guy that would stick around for at least a couple seasons. But the fact that she was able to use her tactics along with like her battle strength and the use of the dark ichor, it makes her really badass without her being like a Mary Sue. She doesn't do things perfectly. She loses fights and she struggles a lot. And when she does win battles, it just feels so deserved and earned that you just can't help but root for this girl. Oh my God, when we get to our girl Nelluru, her episode broke me to pieces. Like, getting her backstory of her being a slave at this brothel, dealing with these awful freaking bandits that have violated her repeatedly, abused her repeatedly. She's had 3 miscarriages, and she ends up being a member of this band with Clevatess and the baby because she's able to breastfeed. And I love that they didn't use her just as like a plot device for like getting this baby fed. I actually really appreciated the time that they took to craft this character to make her own person as well. She's honestly like the heart of the story for me. Whenever she is involved in the story, it makes me more emotionally invested in everything that's going on, because she is representative of what's going wrong with society. She is someone that has been left behind, abandoned, impoverished, and there's many people like her in her situation that do not get a second chance the way that she got a second chance. And that's all by design. The Haiden kingdom thrives because there is also poverty. That is an intentional design. That's what you get when you have monarchies, which is why I don't be fucking with monarchies ever in fiction. Like, even in Game of Thrones, I'm always side-eyeing the people that are in royalty positions, because it's like you existing, you being here and being part of the system is the reason why there's so many impoverished people. So fuck you. So I was side-eyeing the Haiden kingdom since day one, and Nelluru just made me double down on that. I do have mixed feelings on Nell becoming Nelluru when she gets swallowed up by that beast, and then Clevatess revives her in a new body with new powers. I love that she gets superpowered abilities because that gives her more agency in this world where someone like her wouldn't have a lot of control over what happens around her and to her. But I don't know how I feel about Nell losing her thickness just so she could look more visually like restored and revived and improved. I get why they did some of that. Like, you want to show that Nelluru is this new person with a new beginning. She's more capable of handling herself with her physical strength. Her speech impediment is cured because her teeth are fixed. She has cleaner clothes, but she also has a slimmer body. And I this is something that I have a gripe about with all media in general, not just anime, but I just wish that fatter bodies were more normalized in fiction and in the stuff that we consume every day, because fat people are around us every day. We see fat people being just as healthy and capable as people who are slimmer. So I think my biggest gripe with Nell's transformation to Nelluru was really just like the slimming down of the body. I mean, she looked good either way. Like, thick is thick. Don't get me wrong. I like thick, but it would have been really nice to have a character who was on the heavier side that could prove that they're just as valuable and capable, important as other characters who are of slim build or big muscular build. That is something that I think a lot of media just across the globe really needs to work on. We barely ever get characters to take seriously who are fat, who are heavy set. So I think that was like my main problem with the transformation of Nell to Nelluru. I also just really wanted to highlight this moment towards the end of the series, of the season, where the princess of the Haiden kingdom bows down to Nelluru and just acknowledges her value as a person. I just love that she made the effort to go out of her way to say, I don't think anything negatively of you. I don't think that you're worthless just because you're not of royalty, because you are a peasant, essentially. And she's willing to give these characters anything that they wish. I love that the princess takes time to appreciate and acknowledge someone like Nelluru, though I would really like to see what this princess has in mind in terms of how she's going to move forward as a leader in this kingdom, because there's a lot of changes you got to make systemically so that you don't create more people like Nell and don't put them in positions like that again. Like, as long as this kingdom continues the way that it's going and the way that it's operating, you're going to create more impoverished people who are going to be desperate, who will turn to anything just to survive. So I've got eyes on you, princess. I'm waiting on what you do to change that. There's a couple of really interesting themes that this show plays with. One of them, the main one, being colonization of land, and how the dark beast lords are basically, they operate as like indigenous creatures. They don't seem to be like, aberrations or mistakes that humans have made. They seem to be just naturally occurring creatures, at least as far as we know in season 1. And every time that we see a battle going on, it's because humans go out of their way to encroach on their territory, whether you see it in the pilot episode, the very first episode where we see Alicia get like slaughtered along with her crew, or in the flashbacks that we see with Drell, where they go out of their way to go seek a dragon so that Margot can get his blade, up to snuff so that he can eventually defeat a dark beast lord. We never see these creatures actually wreak havoc on human lands unless they've been provoked first. I really want to see how this fleshes out in future seasons, because I can't imagine that the thesis here is humans just have to get stronger so that they can muscle their way through these darker lands so that they can explore the world freely the way that they want to. I'm really hoping that it goes the route of these characters need to negotiate with these creatures and find a way to, find common ground with these creatures so that they can coexist with each other, so that they can move about the world freely without coming into conflict. At least that's what I got the sense of in season 1, is that I don't think these characters will make much progress if all they do is muscle their way through these territories that they can't go through. There's also this exploration of military propaganda and how easily humans and people can be swayed by simply listening to an authority telling you what is normal and what is not normal. Like the Haiden royalty, they groom people to become soldiers with special powers. Like the promise of getting glory and power through these special swords, that is a really enticing thing for people who just don't want to be farmers or don't want to be peasants or don't want to do anything that's like a mundane task task. And I can't help but think about how real life veterans end up being mistreated by the systems that take them in, that promise them certain things just for them to be discarded when they've done their duty. Like, look at Alicia's dad. He ends up in a village in the outskirts outside of this royalty kingdom when he was set up to be this amazing next legendary hero. Like, he surpassed his instructor because he was such a genius at what he did. And after that first mission, he's completely expendable. He loses a leg. He can no longer battle, so now he's no longer of use to these people, and he has no choice but to live a very humble life in a cottage in a field somewhere with his daughter. That is very reminiscent of how at least the American military discards people every single day. Take in youth, take in people who don't know much about the military-industrial complex and how it works against us. And you end up seeing like a lot of houseless people. They are veterans. They go into this system, whether they know much about it or not, thinking that they're going to contribute something great to the world, only to be disillusioned and realize, no, I've just been used as something to further push an agenda that this country has, and I can't benefit from that. Drell himself is also discarded at the end of season 1 when he is killed by Vorden, I think that's the Dark Beast's name. As soon as his regalia is broken by Alicia, Drell is just completely deemed useless by the Dark Beast. So that's what ends up killing him. So he's also a victim of that system as well. The show also explores the dangers of unchallenged traditions. When people do not question tradition and where it starts, where it comes from, that can lead to really bad habits in society and really just lethal, dangerous things that can happen to you if you don't question where things come from. The discovery of the Forge is what represents that theme of tradition and what happens when you don't analyze it, understand it, and make adjustments and changes when you see that it's causing harm. The fact that there's like this huge forge that the kings have to throw themselves into just so that they can fulfill their duty as kings without questioning it, without any doubts, without having second thoughts, that feels like a really like hyperbolized version of just indoctrination and dogma of what a man in power should be. Right? From what I've seen, it ties very directly to how masculinity is presented and functional in society, where there's these unwritten, unspoken rules of what you're supposed to be as a man, specifically as a man in power, where you can never give up on, conquest and taking more and being better. Clevatess discovering this forge was really interesting, and seeing his disillusionment in humanity and being completely disinterested, at least briefly, on continuing his journey. He expected something more than just, the kings, they just do what they do because they're doing what they're told. They're not thinking. They don't actually have any real philosophies and really thought behind why they are encroaching on Dark Beast's territory. They're just doing it just because it's the thing to do. It's what past generations have done, so we have to do the same thing. The fact that the king throws himself into the forge when he fails to throw his actual grandson into the forge, it just doubles down on that theme of men in power not being able or not willing to give up their privilege, their status in society, even though it's hurting them as well. And yes, he's doing it against his will because that's what the Forge tells him to, but that is a metaphor. That is representative of, again, indoctrination, of dogmatic rules that people set up just to keep everyone in line and not be open to new cultures and new ideas and new traditions that are healthier for society, that would be beneficial for everyone. They just want to perpetuate this system of power because they do not want to give up power, even if it means destroying themselves in the process. I'm really curious about the Book of Toah. I really want to explore these other books that are supposedly out there so that we could piece together, who created the Forge, who started this whole culture of the heroes, this whole culture of, colonization and taking power. I haven't read the manga, so I have no idea what's ahead, but I'm really curious to see what these books will tell us and what the characters will do with this information once they piece together the entire history that's been intentionally erased and kept away from these couple of generations of humans. And I love that this show emphasizes the importance on learning your history, uncovering your history to understand the present that you're in so that people can make adjustments and make changes to better the society that they're in today. That is something that is really desperately needed around the world right now these days politically, where we all need to be learned about our histories so that we know not to repeat the same mistakes in the future. I really hope we do get a satisfying definition and conclusion as to what a hero means in this world. I really hope it's like the total opposite of what we've gotten so far, where it's all about the choices that you make to make a better world. And I think they're kind of hinting at that, because when Clevatess lets baby Luna walk to his mom, he emphasizes that a king must always walk on their own. After having just witnessed the original king fall by the forge because the king had no option, no free will, it was a slave to the forge and its orders, Clevatess wanted to emphasize Luna being someone that is ruled by their own independence, their own decisions, their own agency. And I just love that this simple little scene of Clevatess letting the baby walk on his two legs and stand and go to his mom on his own. That was like just a really cute little just symbolic representation of Clevatess putting hope in humanity, gaining more agency and having the potential for them to make better decisions that will benefit all people and not just themselves. All right, that's enough of me yapping about this show. Go watch this show if you haven't seen it yet. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. It's a really fun watch. If you have watched this show, let us know in the comments below what you thought of Clevatess. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Please recommend me and Jess more anime to watch. We're always looking for the next awesome thing to watch. I definitely need more dark fantasy in my life. So if you got dark fantasy recommendations, drop it in the comment section below as well. And if you like this video, make sure to like it. Make sure to subscribe, hit notification bells, share this with your friends, your family, your royal highnesses, and your Dark Beast Lord best friends. And with that, we'll see you all next time. All right, this is kind of weird, just me being by myself, talking to you directly. I don't know how people do this. It's so weird. Jess, please come back, please.